is the minimum required rate of return. This is the minimum required rate of return by providers of capital. By providers of capital, i.e., it is the minimum. It is the minimum that a project should generate. That a project should generate. That a project should generate for a fund to be able to pay for a fund to be able to pay one, interest. Number one, interest to providers of debt. One, interest to providers of debt. Number two, preference dividends. Preference dividends to preference share capital. Preference dividends to preference share capital. Three, ordinary dividends. Ordinary dividends to ordinary shareholders. Ordinary dividends to ordinary shareholders. Ordinary share. Importance of cost of capital. Importance of cost of capital. Importance of cost of capital. Number one, as a discounting rates. Acts as a discounting rate on all projects. On all projects when evaluating viability of investments. On all projects when evaluating viability of investments. Viability of investments. Number two, helps in deciding the fund's capital structure. The fund's capital structure, i.e., the mix of various sources of capital. I.e., the mix of various sources of capital. Assist the fund to raise capital. Assist fund to raise capital from cheap sources. Capital from cheap sources. Four, assist the fund in dividend. Assist the fund in dividend policy formulation. In dividend policy formulation. Five, assist the fund to determine. Assist the fund to determine working capital policy. Working capital. Working capital. Calculation of cost of capital. Subtopic. calculation of cost capital. Calculation of cost of capital. The component cost of capital. The component cost of capital comprises of one, cost of equity, one, cost of equity, number two, cost of preference, cost of preference, number three, cost of debt, cost of debt. Same. Number one, cost of equity. Cost of equity, KE. Cost of equity, KE. Cost of equity, KE. This is the minimum. This is a minimum required rate of return. Required rate of return by providers of equity capital. By providers of equity capital. Equity comprises of ordinary shares and retained earnings. Comprises of ordinary shares and retained earnings. Ordinary shares and retained earnings. There are two methods of calculating cost of equity. There are two methods of calculating cost of equity. Number one, dividend valuation method. Dividend valuation method. Number two, capital assets pricing model. Pricing model, capital asset pricing model is the second one. Capital asset pricing model is the second method. So I want us to start with dividend valuation or Gordon's level. Dividend valuation of Gordon's what? Gordon's level. Same. The cost of ordinary shares. The cost of ordinary shares that have already been issued. The cost of ordinary shares that have already been issued is equal is equal to the cost of retained earnings. The cost of retained earnings. Number 8, constant growth. In dividends, constant growth in dividends, constant growth in dividends. Second, let's be notes. So this is what zero growth in dividends. Zero growth in dividends. So how do I about similar thing? And then you have to just leave the one. You leave the one and the and then select then the alpha, then then how I agree with you. And then definitely, we have to do that in the one. In one, computer is one, it will have name. That is one, that is one. It's not only a video for the data in the data. It can then drive that, and then after modifying that, we can visualize. We can visualize that. And then something like that, everything is in our manner in our project so that we need to return to your that. Not as a Number two. So that we can allow the manage or match. Capital asset pricing model. Capital asset pricing model, which says capital. It is based on the assumption that it is based on the assumption that there is a risk-free rate of return. There is a risk-free rate of return measured is a risk-free rate of return measured by returns of government securities. Returns of government securities, such as treasury bills, Investment will carry risk. And the investors have to be compensated. For the extra risk premium. By being paid risk premium. By being paid risk premium. The cost of equity will be equal to risk-free rates plus risk premium. Risk-free rates plus risk premium. Risk-free rates plus risk premium. Risk-free rate plus risk premium. So have that for me. Cost of debts. X. Say it is the minimum required. It's the minimum required rate of return. Rate of return by providers of debt. By providers of debt. So it's starting to redeemable, so rather irredeemable, right? Now, Cost of preference factor, cost of preference factor KP, cost of preference factor. This is the minimum. Is a minimum required rate of return by providers of preference capital. Providers of preference capital. It has the same characteristics as debts. As debts. So are the following formulas. Weighted average cost of capital, or types of capital, types of cost of capital, types cost of capital. Types of cost of capital. Types of cost of capital. Moment. Weighted average costs of capital weighted marginal cost of capital. Cost of capital. WMCC. 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 Start with number one. Weighted average cost of capital. Weighted average cost of capital. Weighted average cost of capital. WACC. It is the companies. It is the company's overall cost of capital. Overall cost of capital that is already issued. That is already issued and has been used by the firm. And has been used by the firm. Therefore, it is a historical cost. Therefore, it is a historical cost. It is the combined cost of equity, debts, and preference share capital. And preference share capital. In calculation of WACC, market value weights are used. Market value weights are used there. So, market value weights market value weights refers to the current value, refers to the current value of the capital structure of the capital structure, and E, the value at which they are currently selling at the market. The value at which they are currently selling at the market. They are currently selling at the. So go to May 2021. May 2021. Question 3. Question 3. May 2021. Question 3. B. Because the number of some.
The following is from the basic range statement of financial position as matched. That is matched in 21. How value students are additional information on the ordinary share of the receipt limited at currently quoted at 72 shillings per share. Current dividends. Number 2, the most recently declared dividend was 2 shillings per share and will be paid in a year's time. The dividend growth rate is 5%. Number 3, the dividend will continue to grow at the rate of 5% in the foreseeable future. The preference shares currently trade at 80 shillings per share. There is no preference dividend owing at this point in the time. Number 5, the debentures are irredeemable and currently trade at 120% of their nominal value. Number 6, the corporation tax rate is 9%. Requires number 1, the cost of capital for each sort of finance for the limited. Number 2, the weighted average cost of capital for a big limited.
Right. So the first part of that question, they're asking for the cost of capital for each source of finance for ZQ1 limited. Now the cost of capital here simply represents the minimum required rate of return that an investor will be guaranteed for them to agree to invest in your company, or that a financer will guaranteed or will be guaranteed for them to agree to provide what funds. For example, if it is ordinary shareholders and or you're selling shares in the stock exchange or in the securities market, you must guarantee them a certain minimum amount. You tell them, on average, we will be giving you a return of how much? 8% every single one year. The same case is true with what the government is doing by selling what? Treasury bills and what? Bonds. They're telling you that on average, they will give you 15%. So that 15% is the minimum required rate of what? Return that you as an investor are being promised so that you invest in securities in form of treasury bills and bond with the government. Now, 8% is the amount you are being guaranteed or you're being promised, so that you choose to invest by buying ordinary shares, so that you choose to invest and save in what? A sum. So that 8% is what we refer to as a cost of what? Capital. Or that minimum required rate of return is what we refer to as a cost of what? Capital. So the cost of capital comprises 3 things. Number 1, cost of equity. Number 2, cost of debt. Number 3, cost of preference shares. Number 1, cost of equity, cost of debt, preference shares. So, equity is further broken down into 2 things. Number 1, ordinary shares. Number 2, retained earnings. So equity therefore is made up ordinary shares and retained what? And retained earnings. So equity, we are saying, is made up of ordinary shares and retained what? Earnings. So effectively, we are saying that the cost of capital, if you break it down, you say you have ordinary shares, you have what? Retained earnings, you have your debt, and you have your preference what? Shares. And when they ask you for the cost of capital, so you have to determine the cost of capital for those 4 what? Items. So let me say those 3 items: equity, ordinary or equity, which is ordinary shares and what? Retained earnings, debt, and preference what? Shares. So when you're calculating the cost of equity, or when you're calculating the cost of ordinary shares, use the formula for cost of what? Equity. When you're calculating the cost of retained earnings, use the formula for cost of what? Or equity. So the formula is the same. But the difference between calculation of ordinary shares and retained earnings is that retained earnings do not incur flotation cost. Retained earnings do not incur flotation what? Cost. The flotation cost will only be incurred when you issue new securities. And that means when you issue ordinary shares. When you issue preference, or when you issue preference shares, there's also flotation. When there are debts being issued, you also will incur flotation what? Cost. But when you are, but the retained earnings, you do not issue them. Therefore, they do not have what? Flotation cost. But remember, the formula for equity is the same, or is used when you're determining the cost of ordinary shares and when you're determining the cost of what? Retained earnings. Different thing, retained earnings do not have flotation what? So go to that question. When you're reading such a question, the first thing you do is you must identify the component what? Cost. What have they told you on the component cost? Remember to tumesema ni equity, which is either ordinary shares or retained earnings, which is preference shares, and which is what? Dependent debts. So in that question, we are in May 2021 question 3B class, and in May 2021 question 3B, they are saying the book values. They have given you ordinary shares, they have given you the preference shares, and they have given you what? Debenture. Debenture is debt, and bond is also what? Debt. So therefore, we're going to calculate the component cost for it or each. Let's start with the cost of equity. The cost of equity. Equity is either growing or not growing. The dividend. Two things. Retained or equity, be it ordinary shares, be it retained earnings. Either there is growth in dividends, or the dividends are not constant or have zero growth. When they grow, the dividend this year will be different to the dividend next year. It was different in the previous year because they are changing every single what? Year. But if there is constant growth, the dividend paid last year will be the one to be paid this year, will be the one to be paid next year, and the foreseeable what? Future. So when you're calculating the cost of equity, you must go there and identify whether it is growing or not doing what? Growing. In this particular case, our equity in the form of ordinary shares, is it growing? Is it not growing? The dividends, are they growing? Are they not growing? Yes, because they're saying, note number 2. The most recently declared dividend was 2 shillings per share and will be paid in a year's time. The dividend growth rate is how much? 5. Note number 3. The dividend will continue to grow at the rate of. So ours is doing what? So therefore, the cost of equity will be in knots. 1 plus what? Growth rates. Okay. Divided by P naught plus growth rate. You multiply by what? You multiply by what? 100. So, the dividend did not is a dividend just done what? Paid. Which one is ngapi? 2 shillings. 1. The growth rate there. The growth rate there. Wanasema ni 5%. So 0.05. Confirm. Iko sawa sina? Divide by P naught. P naught is the market price of the what? Share of the ordinary shares. 72. But wanasema kama what? But you want it to be X dividend. So the price there come dividend means it is before doing what? Before paying the dividend. But you always value it after paying the what? Dividend. So you subtract your dividend price per share, which was how much? 2 shillings. So the price below X dividend plus a growth rate of 0.0 what? Alafu hiyo yote you multiply by what? So remember the price here is X dividend, not come dividend. So much? 10%. So, all right. The next component cost is the cost of preference shares. Next point. Preference share. So the preference shares can either be redeemed or they are either redeemable or they are irredeemable. Redeemable means that they can be redeemed after a number of years, or they have a maturity what? Period. If they don't have a maturity period, they are irredeemable. They are there forever. So redeemability means you can change them into other forms of what? Securities. Right. So in this question, let's go and identify whether our preference shares are redeemable or not. Whether our preference shares are redeemable or not. For them to be redeemable, they must give you time. For them to be redeemable, they must give you time. Have they given you anything on time? Time in terms of the number of years? They are very specific. They are irredeemable. The generous enough to tell you they are irredeemable. In any case, for you to know they are irredeemable, they will not give you the number of years. If they give you the number of years, automatically unajua ni nini? Sawa? So to say, it's the formula. It is divided by not multiply by what? 100. Multiply by 100. Multiply by 100. Right. So you say, so this PD is the preference dividend, which is the preference what? Dividend. If you don't have the preference dividend, you calculate what? Interest. You calculate interest on preference what? Shares. So if you don't have what? Preference dividend. If they had said the preference dividends were 8, tungechukua 8 shillings. But now, because we don't have the preference dividend, we also use what? Interest. Sawa? Interest hapo wanasema ni 6%. 6%, but the interest there is normally on par value. It is on what? Par value, not on market price. It is on par value. The par value is a price you're going to indicate, or is the price sometimes you refer to as book value. What you're going to use to record in your what? In your books. Par value, book value, face value, or nominal what? Value. So if you see the name nominal value, if you see the name face value, that is also known as par value, which they are saying per share ni ngapi? You divide that by the market price. So what's the market price? The market price? The market price of preference shares? 80 shillings. 80 shillings. 80 shillings. Then you multiply that by what? By that by 100. How much? Seven what? The next component, cost of capital in Nigerian debt, which is K. Sawa. So it's sawa. Again, debt and preference share capital share the same characteristics in that they are either redeemable or irredeemable. For them to be redeemable, you must be given the number of what? Yes. So go to that question and become an irredeemable. Come on, the redeemable. That's wanasema anything on number of years. Kama hawajasema automatically unajua ni nini? Irredeemable. Wanasema how do you get that? It is your interest divided by 1 minus times and they're always percentages, eh? So go to those formulas and multiply by 100. Go to those formulas when you don't have 100 multiply by 100. Go to those formulas. Mahali hakuna 100 una multiply by 100. Because they are percentages, eh? They are percentages. When you're being promised a return, the told we will give you this percent, and that is very true. Because what happens, it is not possible for them to tell you this constant. So they tell you something as a percent. All right. So your interest there, again, remember class, interest is always on par value. Always on what? Par value. Or nominal value. Or face value. Or book value. Par value. Don't forget it. So the interest in this case, the interest in this case, wanasema namna gani? 4.8% of how much? Of 100. Par value. Sit down. There you go. What the 4.8? Yes. 4.8. Do not inamaanisha the market price, eh? And we are saying The debentures are irredeemable and are currently trading at 120% of what? So it is 20%, but we know the nominal value is also known as the what? Par value. So the par value was 100. Manisha, they are trading at how much? 120. They are trading at 120. They are trading at 120. What is cost of debt? What is 74.8. Remember, gonna tax it. Remember, gonna tax. How much is the tax? How much? 2.8. Sasa na. First two wanasema nini? So that's that was part one, eh? We go part one where they ask me the first song. Sawa? Sasa tuko part two, which you know, wanasema weighted average. First one, second. Sawa? Now, the weighted average cost of capital. Always remember, when you're getting this component cost, refer to this as the component cost. You normally do not use notation. Let me repeat again. We normally have two types of cost of capital. Number one, WA60. Here. Number two, weighted marginal cost of capital. Sorry. Weighted average cost of capital is the cost of capital for already issued securities or already issued what? Capital. Therefore, it is historical. It is what? Historical. And since it is a historical cost, there will be no flotation cost. Whether they tell you, whether they do not. So under the flotation cost, by virtue that I am supposed to determine WACC, I would not have used the flotation what? Cost. Because flotation cost is only incurred when you issue new securities. But WACC is historical. So another flotation what? Cost. So when you're calculating this cost of this component cost, the cost of equity, the cost of preference shares, and the cost of debt, remember, do not use what? Flotation cost for WACC. Sawa? Yes.
So the way they have separated the questions, so we say that they are products that have been issued new shares. When we're determining the cost of capital for the components, we factor in the flotation.
Yes, if they have.
When we come to that case, we calculate again and remove the flotation.
Yes. So if they tell you they have issued new shares, remember, if they have given you rotation cost to you, we use it. If they have not given you any good, then so you remember WCC has no flotation what? Because it is a historical. Right. But WMCC has flotation because you issue new what? Security there. Right. But that we will see now. Now, WSCC say which is the cost of what? It is the weight of equity and the cost of equity, the weight of debt and the cost of debt, the weight of preference shares and the cost of preference what? And the weight we use here, unless otherwise what stated, should always be market value weights. Should always be market value what? In a market value weights. In a market value weights, don't forget that. Unless they tell you to use book values, unless they tell you to use book what? Values, remember the market value. Weights. By market value, we basically mean it is the weight of the current cost of capital using the current market prices. Using the current market what? Prices. Book value, you're using historical prices. But the market value, you're using the current what? Prices at which they are trading with. So market value in market prices, book value ni historical, the ones you have recorded as per your capital structure provided where ni sawa. So let's use market values. Okay, so wanasema we want to determine our weights, determination of who weight, here why, and remember tunasema market weights, this is how tunatumia market what weights, unless otherwise stated. Unless wasema tumia book value. So we can start. We can start with ordinary shares, and ordinary shares tumesema ina represent nani? Equity. Sio tumesema? Ndio tumesema? So unasema currently as per the book value, wanasema they are ordinary shares were issued at 50 shillings per share, and the total amount received was 9.6 million. So what you first do, you identify the number of shares that were done what? Issued. The number of shares that were done what? Issued. If they issued one at 50 shillings, the par value, and they received 9.6, how many shares did they issue? So let's go 9.6. Gonna divide by who? That will give you the number of ordinary what? Shares. Sawa. Then you multiply by the market price per share. Multiply by the market price per share. Multiply by the market price per share. 70. That 72 was before paying dividend. So it should be come dividend. X dividend should be X. It is after paying the what? Dividend of 2 shillings. So what's the total value of the securities? Of equity? The total value of your security ni pesa ngapi? Nothing? Sawa? Hiyo ingine ni nani? Hiyo ingine inasema ni nani? Preference shares. After how many shares were you? After how many shares were you? After the number of shares, so unachukua nini? 7.9 million. Gonna divide by 100 by 100. Gonna multiply by the market price. We're using market price. Market price ni ngapi? It's currently trading at 80. Currently trading in market price. How much? 63. Au watu wa online tuko pamoja. KB debt. KB. We identify the number of shares. 6 points. Or divide by how much? Divide by how much? 100. See now. Then you multiply by your market price. Rate of the dividend. How much is the market price? How much is the market price? 120. See, 120. It is trading at 120% of the nominal value. It's trading at 120% of the nominal value. Yes, someone got it. 76. So what is your total mass? Yo ukiongeza yote inakupa ngapi? Ukiongeza hiyo yote inasema namna ngapi? How much? 27,000. Yeah, it's not going to be now. Let's get the weights. Let's get the W's here. The weight, you know, is a ratio or a proportion. So the proportion common in the equity that was 1340 divided by 27. So now reference is of course if the relations divided by 26 divided by 7. So you're simply getting a ratio of each component cost of the total cost. You say the weight of equity. Tumesema itakuwa nini? The weight of equity tumesema itakuwa nini? Let's ignore the zero there. We divide by 27.40. Here ndio itakuwa weight ya equity. Tuna multiply by the cost of what? Equity. How much is the cost of equity hapa? The cost of equity ilikuwa ngapi? The cost of equity KE ilikuwa ngapi? 8%. Hiyo hii hapa 8%. Okay. So we are where? We are here. Sawa? Sawa? Plus the weight of what? Debt. The weight of what? Debt. The weight of debt itakuwa namna gani? The weight of debt will be how? The weight of debt unachukua nini? 7680 una divide by 27.40. This weight here. That divided by that. Sawa? You multiply by the cost of who? Debt. What is the cost of debt? The cost of debt ilikuwa ngapi? Ilikuwa 2.8. Plus hiyo ni debt. Sina. Twende kwa preference what? Shares. Weight unachukua nini? Weight unachukua nini? 63.20. Una divide by alafu una multiply by 7.5. Multiply by 7.5. multiply by 7.5. .4%.
Yes.
Six point four. 6.4. May 2019. May 2019, 2023. Three reactions. Umeiona? Umeiona la, have you seen that question? Yeah. Wanasema namna hivi. The capital structure of Maweni Limited is given as follows. You have the ordinary share capital, the retained earnings, 12% redeemable debenture. The firm adopts a 60% dividend payout or 60% dividend payout ratio. Sawa. Zaidi ya yote wamemaliza na kusema the firm's return on equity is 12%. 30%. Here wamesema the existing 12% redeemable debenture is currently trading at actually interest. Okay. 14% preference shares are currently trading at that degree come. Corporate tax rate is that Anasema the cost of ordinary share. Cost of ordinary share. So ordinary share capital. Here wamesema the cost of what? The behavioral venture. That is 12.49. Alafu the weighted average cost of what? The weighted average cost of what? Tuanze na nani? Okay. What? Wamesema ordinary shares.
Yeah.
Say when you're using WACC, the cost of ordinary shares or the cost of retained earnings is what represents the cost of what? Equity. Sawa? Formula eba inaanzaga na D naught divided by D naught. Sawa? Then you ask yourself, if the dividend growing, is it not doing what? Growing. So is our dividend growing ama imenyamaza? Is it the dividend growing or is it not growing? It is not? It is not? It is growing. It is doing what? It is doing what? Growing. You know why? Wamesema. There is a new jargon nilimwambia msome mkanyamaza. Hapo nisema the firm adopts a 60% a 60% dividend. Alafu the next one. This found the return on equities. So that statement there, in so many words, they are trying to tell you that the dividend is doing what? Sawa? That statement helps you to determine your what? Profits. Helps you to determine your what? Profits. And by taking your return times your retention what? And your retention what? Your return on equity and your retention what? Sawa? So retention ratio times your return on equity and your return on equity times your return on. Haya, wacha nimuonesha. Return on equity wanasema ni ngapi? 20%.
Yes.
Times your retention what? Ratio. So, in this question, they have given us the payout ratio. They have not given us the retention what? Ratio. So, but the retention ratio is simply your payout ratio subtracted from 1. It should be 1 minus your payout ratio in ngapi? 60%. 60%. So, can be payout ratio plus your retention what? Should be equal to what? 1. Should be equal to 1. Be equal to 1. So how much is the growth rate? 8%. 8%. Sawa. Sawa. Hapo sawa. So the cost of equity will be dividend incoming. The dividend just will be 1.5. Eh? Not this reading at how much? 45. But unless someone count dividend. So as you know, it should be minus dividends enough. So you see the hours must always be X dividend. Eh? So this is the dividend. Eh? It's the dividend. And the reason is because it is having dividend. What is X dividends? What is X dividends? Not come dividend X dividend. What percent? 21.5. So the other cost of capital in the other component cost in nani, that was retained, that was ordinary share there. Mimi nasema ni kuna debt no, a debt ilikuwa mara mbili, kuna 12% debt. So we say debt either is maturing or not maturing. See now, is ours maturing or not maturing? Debt yetu iko na maturity ama haina? Haina, see now. So you know that conceptual percent debt, it's only called 20% debt, has no maturity, so the interest divided by we don't see now. But tunajua lazima ikuwe na 1 minus x, alafu multiply by what? The interest wanasema namna gani? 12% of what? Wait, interest ni ngapi nauliza? Tunasikia interest ni ngapi? 20% of 20, which is the power of sit down. Surely 2.4. Be not ni ngapi? Be not. This one will turn you at 112. But remember what is net of dividends now or interest, right? So how much interest? How much?
196.
109?
0.6.
109.6?
Yes.
82.4 now. 109.6. Sawa. So therefore, itakuwa nini? 2.4. 1.5%. Ulikuwa na ingine walikuwa wanasema ni 1%. The other date was 1%. Okay. So hata hii it had no, it was not mature, senior. So reporting, the interest will be 14% of what? Papa living up 25, eh? Papa living. The not market price. 14% of 25. Fine. Market price wanasema ni ngapi currently? That will be 0.5, right? What is that? Yes. So now, let's get the weights. Go to the next part of that question. They're asking the words WMCC is now this platform. But you know, for us to get WMCC, we need the weights. So now, okay, now my equity. We say we consider the market bar, unless you're using book values, unless we tell you using book values. So I was just saying no such statement. So to be any market value. In case of compare using market book value rather, ungechukua weight of ordinary shares to be 50 divided by 120. Niko pamoja. Preference shares ungechukua 25 divided by 120. Na ingine ungechukua 15 divided by 120. Wangesema utumie nini? Book values. Now we know that the selling utumie nini? Market value. Ordinary shares yako iko 50,000 shares in shillings. Divide by value ngapi? 20. Market price ni ngapi pasha? 40. 40. That's dividend, not come dividend, eh? 40. Debt ilikuwa mara mbili. Debt ilikuwa mara ngapi? This is not carrying this W. Just say equity. Then debt.
Question. A question.
Here go wamepeana 25,000 sio? Divided by what? The current market price of that is 109.6. Tumetafuta difference as well.
They were preference shares, not debt.
Then ilikuwa preference shares, eh?
Yes.
So hii inafaa kuwa PD. Na hii inafaa kuwa minimum. So iko sawa. This is preference. Yes. PD. Never necessarily you speak. You know. Here. Here. Preference of it. So you are another tax. You are in a tax. So sorry about that. Sorry about that. For was not debt, it was preference capital. It's preference capital, not debt. So normally don't incur tax, eh? So we don't incur tax. And in very how much? Exactly. Rate will be 15 now. Divided by what? 25. Multiply by that. Multiply by that. When you get to the top, your totals. Kwanza ni ngapi? 100, no? 100,000, eh? We. Motion 18 now, right? You never know if you want to follow motion 25. 254. Okay. No. What? Ten percent. 10%. Go to April 2022, question 3, I highlight something. April 2022, question 3, I highlight something.
These people spend money on the part of life.
This is a lot better. Now, hapa hatuko tumepewa growth, si ndio? Tukatumia return on equity retention. The other formula is here. Na sasa ndio na ambayo the April 2022 ni highlight. How is it?
So the end one is part of this problem.
A of growth.
No, part of
Hii
GDP.
ni different. Hii inanisaidia kutafuta growth rate. Hii inapewa hii.
Oh, you are not getting my question. Is it?
Oh, hapa ni M minus 1. What you do unapata hiyo kwanza. The ends and the power the fifth or whatever of this. Or rather this divided by this. Alafu kwenye hapa. So hii iko in bracket mpaka hapo. Alafu unapata the root of that. Alafu kenye umepata hiyo sign una subtract 1. Alafu una multiply by nini? Ndio nataka tuone hapo nionyeshe. It's more clear tukigua hapo. So let's go to April 2022 question 3. I'll show you where that is applied so so that when we reach next time to find a WMCC. Go to April 2022 video. I want to show you something. Question 3C. Question 3C. Why or not?
Yes.
Wanasema ufanye using WMCC, sio? Why or not?
Yes.
But note number 1 wanasema the ordinary shares of Panda have an dividend market price of 47 and an ordinary dividend of 3.63 that has just been paid. You know that the dividend is always X dividends. You know, historic dividend payments have been as follows. 2018 to 2021. So when you want the growth rate there, you want the what? Growth rates. And it's 4 years. 4 years.
Yes.
Minus 1. Alafu unachukua nini? Current dividend. Current dividend is in the year 2021, which is 3.5 divided by earliest dividend, which is how much? 3.09. Yeah. The earliest dividend, earliest, not the previous, the earliest. 2018, 3.09 minus 1. Sawa, so kwanza lazima utafute gani? 3.5 divided by 3.09 inakupea ngapi? One point something, yeah? Then the third root. Yes. So unapianga nini? 3 sheets. That's. Mesema 1 point? Minus 1. What's the share? How much? Then all that you multiply by what? So how much is the growth rate? Okay, growth rate 4.2%, eh? Oh.
But the current dividend should be 3.60.
Maybe either for now, 2018, 3.09. 2019. Now you know, he dividend just paid. No, no, he 3.63. Dividend, yes.
So which we just
Sawa? Apa tu sawa? So we can call it a day. Nimeona watu wanga wanauliza maswali. The next class probably will be on when? Maybe Monday, eh? Maybe Monday. I want to believe so. So sawa? So can we call it a day? Unataka assignment? Asi ni assignment. No, nafanya revision. Hii ni assignment. Sawa. Oh, kuna mmoja ameuliza retained earnings. In hii swali tumefanya, kuna mahali walikuwa wamekupea retained earnings hapo kwa mfano hii. Now when you only use the retained earnings when you're using WMCC. When you're using weighted average, we know that the extend class one. Anyway, when you're using WACC, you do not use retained what? Earnings anyway. So wewe jua, wewe karamu. Wewe karamu.
on MCC ndio
bado hatujafanya MCC. Si tumefanya WMCC. So retained earnings to me. Because you see equity is made up of retained earnings and not equity. So you're using equity, which is ordinary shares or either what retained earnings. But in this case, ordinary one. So sasa lakini sasa tukija kwa MCC, we separate the two of them. Tunasema instead now of using KE, we use what? Ordinary shares kivyake, alafu tunatumia nini? Retained earnings kivyake. Sawa? Sawa?